Well, let's get a view of a different side of all of this, the Italian side in many ways. We've got Elisabetta Gualmini, who is a Socialist and Democrat MEP who joins me inside the European Parliament here in Brussels. Thank you very much indeed, Elisabetta, for joining us. Just first of all, as I was saying, MEPs do seem to agree, at least in principle, that this needs to be linked to the rule of law issue, the budget. But is it going to work? Are MEPs at the end of the day going to fold if it looks like the coronavirus fund might be in trouble?
Yeah, well, actually, the MPs and, the position of the European Parliament is very clear and very ambitious. So we have asked with very much, severity to bind the budget of the European Union to very strict conditionality rules. So it is not acceptable that, for instance, Hungary and Poland get on receiving money from the European Union without giving anything in return, and also threatening, to give their agreement for the recovery fund. So we know that the position of the Council is a little bit less ambitious on the rule of law, because they have basically restricted the definition of rule of law and linked, the respect of the rule of law only to economic affairs. But we keep on asking that both the budget and the recovery plan can be acceptable if the rule of law is respected.
But at the end of the day, Hungary have said, and Poland, they're not happy with this. You've described the German compromise as a bit weak. You're an Italian MEP. What do Italians care more about? This recovery fund, their economic futures on the line, or some judges in Poland?
Well, first of all, the European institutions are not a cash machine, so they are not neutral institutions that deliver money beyond any rule. And so actually we have to get and to arrive to a compromise. So I know that the Italian government, of course, is worried, because we do not want delays, and we do need the recovery fund and the recovery plan to be implemented as soon as possible. So I think that the German compromise can be, a starting point. But on the other way, if you look at the data, for instance, in the very last 5 years, Hungary has got from the European Union basically 47 billion euros, so 1/3 of its GDP. Poland, 207 billion euros from the European Union. Is it acceptable? I don't know.
But at the end of the day, you are going to have to decide in some ways, potentially, if Parliament does push this, are you a European MEP or are you an Italian politician? Who are you going to put first?
Well, actually, I'm both. And so I think that we can have a positive result. So we will ask for the respect of basically the German compromise and in the MFF of, the rules of democracy. And at the end of the day, I don't think that Orban can threaten anything at all. And so I think that we will find a compromise. And also because the recovery fund is extremely important for citizens and for people who are suffering up to now. So I think we will get a compromise. But, to renounce to democracy is a very difficult task.
I know it is, but aren't we going to end up again some way just down the line in a couple of months or a couple of years' time where we will judge that whatever the compromise is, that it'll be yet again ineffective? I mean, there is already Article 7. It doesn't work. This compromise probably won't work, and we'll be here again.
No, I don't think that the compromise won't work, because actually also the Northern democracy, the so-called frugal countries, are sort of, getting an agreement on the German compromise. So I think that this will be the final point. But the negotiations are still, in force, and so as European MPs, we have to fight, because some stricter rules are included in the negotiations. But I think that no one has no interest in delaying the implementation of the recovery fund. So I think we will get a good compromise.
Okay, I'm just going to pause for there for 1 second, because I'm just going to bring in another subject just very briefly, which is, Isabel, that of the coronavirus. We're hearing tonight from the Belgian Prime Minister that the case increases here in Belgium are worrying and disturbing, and they're going to bring in new measures towards the end of the week. Though, of course, in Italy, actually case numbers are increasing, but not nearly as substantially as many other big major European countries like Spain, France, or the United Kingdom, or indeed here in Belgium or the Netherlands. And so, Elisabetta, I'm kind of interested to a degree about where you think, having been so badly hit first time round, why have Italy seemingly so far managed to prevent a proper second wave?
Well, it's pretty simple because we have learned the lesson, and so now we know that we have to behave in a very responsible way, so Italian citizens are very disciplined up to now, and also because we have discovered from data that, for instance, schools are not the places where contagions and infections are increasing, and so students are behaving very well, and I think that we are very much more prepared than in the last spring in fighting this virus. And also we have a very good public health system, and this is kind of working very well.
And just very finally, in all of this, I mean, we heard from the WHO today that they felt that there was fatigue setting in amongst many Europeans about the rules. I mean, is it you're now concerned that, you know, we are going to see increases in cases because people simply have had enough? 6, 7 months in, they just want this to go away.
Well, you know, it's very difficult to wear a mask every day, sometimes really for 12 or 14 hours a day. But I think that health is really a public good, and so we have to know that we have to behave in a very responsible way, not only for us and for our families, but for the community. I think that we need, you know, to fight for just more 6 or 7 months, and then I think that we will be liberated from this pandemic. And so let us keep going in this responsible way, and then we will have positive results.